World's 2020 final is upon us, of course, and I think actually it's kind of exciting in a way, although I think we all know how this is going to pan out. But I think just the storylines themselves is actually kind of exciting, at least from one perspective, which is Suning and the fact that they're coming in third seed from the LPL, underestimated completely. Everyone's just like top esports is a shit. JD gaming is the shit, but it's like, yo, don't you guys realize the Sword Art redemption arc, like team full of rookies with Sword Art and SOFM kind of leading the charge in terms of being veterans and stuff. And I just think that's really cool. First of all, to see Sword Art coming from the LMS, very underrated region, and specifically because, obviously Flash Wolves was really the only competitive team from that region other than AHQ, which was competitive for a little bit, but I always felt like Flash Wolves was the premier team from them anyways, because of just, I think, the limited play style of AHQ and their players on there. But you have these really cool storylines coming from Suning, especially maybe from their ADC and like his background growing up and whatnot. Like it's a really dope narrative, and this is one of the times into which I think a narrative is actually really cool, right? It's not a fake narrative, right? It's something that's real and realistic, and you can kind of grab onto if you're a fan maybe, or if you relate to that and whatnot. And as far as the game aspect of this entire tournament and like how it's led up to this point and whatnot, it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. I mean, I will say that I found Suning's quarterfinals and then especially their semifinals very impressive. I mean, when you look at just how they dismantled JDG in the quarterfinals, and everyone was just like, yo, JDG's got their number. Remember in LPL in the playoffs and whatnot, it's like, yo, and especially with Zoom in particular, he always had Ben's number, and then Ben just performs phenomenally in the fact that he's able to go just toe and toe. And I want to say that for those that think, Ben is like super trash or whatever, or he wasn't even good in this Worlds tournament when it came to the knockout stage or whatnot, in quarterfinals and semifinals, whatever, I will say that he plays a good weak side, given the fact that Suning know that he's just not really going to win. And so what they do is they just try and put him on GP, which is like this infinite scaling champion. And they know that he can go down 30 CS, 40 CS against a fucking Renekton and still be relevant later in the game, which is why also you saw GP getting banned suddenly, and everyone was just like, oh, why the fuck are you banning GP? He was playing horrible on it. It's like, yeah, but you do get, though, that he was relevant at the very end of the game, and as long as Suning stabilized the mid-game state, they could get to the end game to where actually Ben could do something. So I just find that analysis weak in that sense, and that everyone just overrides the early game and says Ben is trash or whatnot, which he is trash early game. Let's admit that. But it's that Suning acknowledges that he's trash in the early game, and they realize, okay, game plan, we fucking skip early game, we go towards later part of mid game to late game, and then we allow Ben to get online to where he can actually fucking do shit, and we try and do maybe some cross map plays or whatnot with GP ulti. So I just think that's very impressive in terms of knowing the weaknesses of their players, which is a very underrated skill, especially from coaching staff and from other players on the team, to know exactly the fault of each individual player on your team and kind of play according to that and revolutionize your play style in that sense to plug the holes, as it were, right? Like as we know, FPX did that before too. So it's like, why not Suning at this point, right? Everyone gave praise to, FPX and like mid lane and whatnot, and playing eccentric champions and kind of losing in the mid lane, but Doingby would end up roaming and helping out and working out in that way. It's like, well, why not give kind of the same props to Ben in that sense, and that, he is helping later on and kind of scaling up and whatnot. So I think this weakness, at least from Suning, they acknowledge and they know how to play around that aspect. And then along with all of this is Hongfeng, which is just, God, is this guy really fucking good. Just and what makes him better is that he's a rookie in that sense. So for him to be able to perform this well, and then also for other teams to then acknowledge that and say, we need to pick his Jhin, or we need to ban his Jhin, or we just need to stop this motherfucker from getting Jhin, right? Because he's just such a good utility ADC in that sense. But also, it's the fact that he recognizes that he doesn't necessarily need to make these crazy plays in order to help his team win the game, right? Like you never really see him trying to go aggressive and flash in or do any stupid shit or whatnot. Like, he just does his job, he does his role, and when it is appropriate, when he's cleaning up and whatnot, he will flash in and he will get those kills, right? Like, we saw that river fight where he got like a triple kill or some shit. So like, it's not above him, but he does know that he's quite the secondary part of the team in that sense. Especially, whenever Angel tries to pop off, when of course SOFM is popping off all the time along with Sword Art. So semifinals, Suning pull out the River Shen, something which you just completely don't attribute to SOFM at all. And so that just throws a wrench into everything. And so now we're going into the finals, and you don't know if SOFM is even going to pull this shit out or not. It's just this random bag of tricks. And I assume that he's probably not going to do that, especially against Canyon. I would consider the best jungler in the entire tournament, even against SOFM. And really, I just think it goes kind of a little contrast to Suning's style just within this entire tournament, which is obviously playing towards or through SOFM and having him get early leads and whatnot, blah, blah. Now, you go over to Damwon Gaming, they look absolutely fucking unstoppable. And in fact, I would say they might actually be the strongest showing out of any team that we've ever had at Worlds. This team looks so fucking crisp. It's unbelievable. Their macro is very good. Their team fight is even better. And really, the only thing that I can see realistically of Suning even having a chance to compete against Damwon is through team fights. And if Damwon opts into team fights, into which maybe it's a 50-50, I think actually Suning could have the advantage just because of their good mechanics within team fights. Now, that's not to say that Damwon Gaming have bad mechanics in and of themselves. Like, obviously they do. But as far as like just having a chance within the game, I think if they are to play more team fight centric as Damwon Gaming, then they're going to lower their chances in that aspect. And I actually think that they have had very superb macro in terms of trade-offs whenever they do want to have trade-offs. And Canyon is just a phenomenal jungler in the sense that he isn't completely reckless, and he knows where to be on the map at any specific given moment. And especially in top lane, to where he ends up ganking top lane, completely destroying the enemy top laner, getting Nuguri ahead, and then Nuguri just knows how to snowball, So I think just this entire combination, along with the weakness of SOFM, which is to invade very aggressively and kind of like skill check the enemy jungler to say, as though, are you gonna call my bluff that you don't think I'm not gonna go for this shit, motherfucker? Like, he's like 80% gonna go for something that you think he might not go for. So with that in mind, I feel like Dan1 Gaming have had enough time to download Suning in that sense, and Korean teams have always been good at downloading other teams anyways, especially in a best of 5 series. But if you give them time to analyze your team, just through that bracket, they're going to come in with a whole bunch of stuff prepared. And that's not to say that Suning hasn't done very good preparation. I think that they have, at least to some large degree, especially, like I said, admitting their weaknesses and whatnot within the top lane. But I think Dan1 Gaming have a very big, solid understanding of how they want to come into this final series. And then on top of that, Showmaker is just far more of a team player than I would have first believed. And that's not to say that he hasn't been phenomenal in the mid lane just solo, but it's the idea into which he can actually help his team snowball through the rest of the parts of the map and whatnot, and transfer power over to Canyon in order for him to get control through the jungle and whatnot. And you'll see this a lot through all of their games. And I just think overall, Dan1 Gaming they have a really good cohesive unit, and they know how to actually play through their jungler, but not in the sense of just like all chips are in, this motherfucker necessarily. But it's that Canyon is able to make intelligent decisions around the map, able to snowball different pinpoints, especially top lane, of course, and then carry that and transfer that over to objectives. And Dan1 Gaming are incredibly good at objectives, getting Rift Herald maybe when the enemy is getting Dragon when the enemy is getting Rift Herald. They are very good at trading objectives and just doing cross-map plays. And I think that is their biggest strength, which is why they actually don't lose a lot of games when you think about it. They're always in the running in that sense, and they never get caught behind when it comes to the objective game. So Dan1 Gaming, I think, got this. They're incredibly flexible in the draft. They didn't fear the Silas coming from G2. They did, they pulled out the Lulu again, and they didn't even need to pick Graves in the first game, right? They picked Hecarim. So it just goes to show that Dan1 Gaming, I feel like they haven't necessarily revealed all their cards, because they didn't have to reveal anything against DRX, as we all know. They revealed a little bit in their game against G2, or their series against G2. So now I feel like they haven't really revealed everything, and going into the finals, they still might have some tricks up their sleeve in terms of draft priority and things like that. So realistically, I actually see the series going 3-0. I don't think Suning have a chance. I think Canyon will be able to download SOFM. I think Dan1 Gaming will be able to download Suning. And as far as the pressure in terms of Nuguri and Canyon over in the top lane trying to do the 2v1 or whatever, SOFM better respect that. And I feel like he's not going to do that, because Ben has largely been playing like this weak side. And if you allow Canyon to take that over, he's just going to fucking demolish your top laner. And then Nuguri, as we all know, can carry a game. So I think it's just going to be a complete slaughter. And also, I think SOFM is still going to play disrespectful, because it seems like that's the only way that he actually knows how to play the game. Or even more specifically, that Suning knows how to play the game is that they have to play through this jungler like 100%. And then they ride that momentum through the mid game so that they can get to the late game to where Ben is now online and whatnot. So I'm just expecting a 3-0, but I will say, though, that Dan1 Gaming is one of the most impressive Korean teams that we've seen in a long, long, long time. And I'm really looking forward to this final.